My brothers and sisters in Christ, today the Church celebrates the beautiful memorial of St. Ignatius of Loyola, most famously the founder of the Jesuit order, the Society of Jesus. But perhaps lesser known is that he is one of the great spiritual giants of the Church for his spiritual tradition and particularly his rules of discernment, the entire way of praying that not only was the foundation for the Jesuits, but for so many saints and men and women of Christian faith in the centuries since him. This is very important as we look at our readings for today. The prophet Jeremiah speaks of this telling that the Lord comes to him and tells him, "I am sending you as this voice, and my people will either listen, or if they don't, they know what's coming." You're telling them what's coming. It's a very harsh prophetic warning of doom, what we would now call fire and brimstone. And on top of this, we in the gospel hear of Jesus going to his hometown and confronting the people there who are skeptical. They seem to know him. They say, we know who this person is. Why should we listen to him? What credibility does he have with us? And they take offense at him. One of the most beautiful rules of life that St. Ignatius of Loyola provides in his rules of discernment, and they're rich and complex and worth breaking open, but the foundational sense of how do we know when God is speaking to us? When I have these thoughts, movements in my soul and my mind, is this God talking to me? Is it just me talking to me? Is it the world? Is it the enemy? We know that the devil can come disguised as an angel of light. You know, all these things, and it makes us doubt what's happening in our spiritual life. And yet, one of the principal rules of St. Ignatius is that we must first know, is a soul moving towards God or away from God? When the soul is moving away from God into deeper and deeper sin, into condemnation, then the voice of the enemy is content to speak platitudes and niceties. After all, why would the enemy want us to change directions if we're on the road to ruin? In this time, God will speak harshly, as he does through his prophets in the Old Testament, because God does not want us to come to ruin. It is the harsh corrective, the tough love to us to turn us back in the right direction. But the soul that is earnestly coming after God, while imperfectly, God is more inclined to speak gently, to speak the words of love, while the enemy and the voices of the world will speak words of distress. Not necessarily the form of the words that come in, but the movements they create in our soul when we feel constant anxiety, unrest, disquiet. This usually is not from God for most of us on the path to him. What is the relevance of this? The people in Jesus' hometown do not believe him, and they discredit him because they do not know the voice or recognize the voice speaking to them as that of God. The entire Gospel of John is absorbed with the question of who is Jesus? Not just what is Jesus doing, but who is he? And the answer, as we know in faith, is that he is the second person of the Holy Trinity, the Word incarnate, come for our salvation. He is not only the Son of God, he is not only the Messiah, he is God. And therefore, his word is worthy of our trust and putting all our faith in him. As those of us who call ourselves Christian disciples, it is important that before we can discern the will of God, the voice of God in our lives, we must first know him, to be able to recognize his voice. The sheep recognize the voice of the Good Shepherd, but that's only if we're spending enough time with him in prayer to recognize him, to see him, to hear him speaking in the quiet of our hearts. On this beautiful memorial of St. Ignatius, may we recommit ourselves to the life of prayer, to lives of discernment, not only of our vocations and states in life, but to God's will in the small things, the everyday decisions, that we may be his hands and feet and know his love and peace, but more importantly, bring that to the rest of the world. May God bless you all.